Good morning, Ian.
Good morning to you, too.
Thank you very much for taking the time today. I appreciate it.
Well, I wasn't doing anything particularly important. it's a day off. I actually have, believe it or not, I have 3 days euphemistically referred to as days off. But of course, they get filled up with all sorts of things, and so a lot of it is technical stuff. Technical stuff. Like I'm surrounded at the moment by packaging of cables and step-up transformers and various power supply converters and things that I have to integrate into my equipment before I fly away to the North American continent on Thursday. So, yeah, a lot of stuff like that you think, it's a day off, but I have all this stuff to do.
You've been surrounded by that stuff. I mean, this is the 7 Decades tour, and not a full 7 decades, because from what I've read, that would mean you were 6 when you started with Jethro Tull. But that's been your whole life.
Well, it seems like it, and back in the 70s, we released a new album every year, which sounds like quite an industrious process, but in fact, I'm reminded that Stephen King, the novelist, he's managed 2 books a year for pretty much all of his adult life, and so I think those of us who are creative for a living, it's hard to imagine a year going by and you haven't come up with something new, even though, in my case, it may not be a new album release every year, but there's lots of other creative things that I've been doing in the period of time. Even if it's not a new album release, there's always other stuff going on. And so it's just part of what I do, and I'm not sure how long it will go on. That there has to be that point where you just recognize that you don't have it in you anymore to do that stuff. But I can't imagine what that would feel like. The idea that there's nothing left. Now I have to take up golf or go fishing or something.
Oh, no.
God help me.
Oh, no. Don't do it, Ian. Don't keep it going. Well, a few months ago.
I would rather do somebody else's laundry than take up golf.
Well, I got plenty of that. If you want to come to Worcester, I can help you.
Hey, I'm your man. I'm your man. I'm the man. I'm the man with the suds. My son-in-law is a big golfer. In fact, he's coming for a takeaway curry this evening. I haven't seen him for a few weeks, so he's a big golfer. He does charity golf events where
that's nice.
He gets together with other people who you probably never heard of, who do these sort of charity golf events. So he really loves his golf, and frankly, he's always asking me to go and play golf with him, but I don't play golf. So goodness me, it's a nice thing for those people who enjoy it. It's a very recreational and mildly physical sport, but for me, it spells the end. I'm not ready for golf.
Well, I think you work hard. From the times I've seen you in the past, it looks like you work harder than any golfer I've ever seen on stage while you're playing anyway. And I always ask these musical artists, I've been asking this for years, and the answer is always different. But what do you attribute not only your personal longevity in music, but also Jethro Tull's longevity to?
I honestly really don't know. I suppose on the one hand it is the loyalty of the fans who, God bless them, for reasons I don't understand, continue to want to come and buy concert tickets or come to shows or buy records. But it's also, in the more personal sense, it is about. It's a bit of desperation, really. I think the idea that you have to face the inevitable sooner or later and say the game is up, but it's not yet. And so I think a lot of people in my age just have to keep going. It is a sense of time is too short. Time is running out. And if you don't do it now, you never will. So there is that feeling of really cracking on with stuff, whether it's creating something new or whether it's just rolling into town and doing another show at another place that maybe you played in several times before. There is some feeling of quiet desperation just to prove that you still can do what it is you're supposed to do. And most of the time I can. I mean, I had COVID 2 weeks ago, and I had to struggle through keeping, not only well apart from anybody else, any human being around me, but I also had to do 7 shows while I had COVID. And that was a bit of a test in as much as, I was feeling pretty wretched. I mean, I was feeling awful. But I had to push myself to do it at the same time as not get too close to the guitar player.
Well, I'm glad you're much better, and hopefully we will definitely see you October 28th in Boston.
I didn't say I was much better.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll see you.
Unfortunately, the after effects of COVID for people in my age, it kind of goes on for a while. And even some of the younger members of my family who had COVID a year or two ago, they were really quite ill for 4 or 5 weeks before they finally felt that they were somewhere back to normal. So I'm gradually sort of shaking it off, and I'm doing a little bit of serious performance practice every day during the time since I came home a couple of days ago. So I'm stepping up again to ready to cope, not only to cope with playing the music, but playing the music in 30 degrees of heat, which is another considerable bit of torture that I have to put myself through, because I'm not a happy bunny in the sun. I'm not a beach guy. I don't like to hang out in hot places. I like to crawl under a wet stone where it's cool and damp and miserable. Then I'm okay. But playing in hot and humid places is really, really a tough one. So I've done a few already in Spain and Italy and places during the summer, but it is a physical test that you have to push yourself through.
Well, October 28th, MGM Music Hall in Boston. And I was reading that you wrote one of your best songs. Well, I'm sorry, in my humble opinion, one of your best songs in Boston, Living in the Past, and supposedly you cranked it out in less than an hour while you were in the city. Is that still correct, or is that legend? Yeah,
it was probably our second trip to Boston back in 1969 when our manager said, "Look, do you have a new song? We need something we can release as a single back in the UK, because we're going to be away for all these weeks in the USA. We need something to, as he put it, keep the pot boiling while we're away." So to humor him, I said, "Yeah, just give me half an hour. I'll go and write a hit." in my hotel room, which we just checked in. And so an hour later, I came back downstairs to meet him, and he said, "Have you got the song?" I said, "Yeah, I've written something." And so we recorded it a couple of days later in New York, and then I did the vocals and flute and the mixing in San Francisco a few days after that. Shipped it back to the UK, and it was duly released, and weirdly became a hit, which is unusual, being in 5/4 time signature and being definitely not very trendy with a title like Living in the Past. So against all the odds, it seemed to have that catchy appeal, which I'm rarely capable of. Most of what I write is definitely not instant appeal, but this one seemed to work out pretty well. So yes, there is that long time association with Boston, and remember the old venue, the Boston Tea Party.
Oh yes,
and
legendary.
Don Law, the promoter, who just a few hundred miles away from Bill Graham in New York, was one of those legendary promoters who essentially created the live concert touring industry of North America. And so, these guys, sadly Bill's no longer with us. Don Law was last time I heard from him, but it's great that we're all part of that history. It's not just about the bands, it's about all the people the unsung heroes backstage, the people who organize the concerts, the agents, the promoters, the managers, the record companies. They're all part of that big machine that without which we wouldn't have enjoyed any success whatsoever. So hats off to Don Law and all those other folks who made it all possible.
Well, Ian Anderson, it's been a pleasure and an honor speaking with you today. Again, thank you for the time. Looking forward to seeing Jethro Tull, October 28th, MGM Music Hall. I'll send them a note to have them crank up the air conditioning while you're there. Even though it's late October, I'll have them.
I was just going to say, it is an air-conditioned venue, so I have no excuse.
All right, Ian Anderson, thank you for your time, sir. Good luck with the tour, and we'll see you in October.
Indeed you will. See you soon. Bye-bye.